Folks joining by Zoom, please mute your microphones.
Yeah, I got it. I checked it.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. I think we're going to give another couple minutes to get people in.
Yeah, 10:01. Okay, recording is on.
And I already sent my power washers outside of my garage for the family. You can just, are they looking for it? Ready to get started, folks?
Ready.
See that now?
A little bit. There we go. There we go.
Everybody can see okay? Yep. All right, let's do this. Good morning. Welcome to the Long Lake Property Owners Association membership meeting of September 4th, 2021. I would like to call this meeting to order. My name is Michael Lesage. I am the new president, and we are running this via Zoom, and Zoom is always unpredictable. So hopefully, cross your fingers this goes well. And we are recording the meeting, so if you want to play it back later, we will be providing a link for that as well. I'd like to have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, let's do roll call. You know what? We're going to have Mr. Lewis here, Supervisor Lewis, and we invited him here to give a few. Come on over here and walk towards the mic.
Sure. Most of you know me. My name is Fred Lewis. I'm Township Supervisor. I'm coming by this morning. I'm kind of swinging in and swinging out. I've got another meeting that I had already committed to be at 10 o'clock. I'm supposed to be out at Little Island Lake, talking with them about weed board that they're looking at forming. Just came out of the Loon Lake meeting, talking with them about weeds and weed controls over there also. I know that you guys have had a lot of stuff going on within the last week here about weeds and the weed control issue at Long Lake. And I know that there's a whole bunch of stuff going on out there, and it could take an entire meeting to go over it, which I would happily sit down and go over with you guys and answer questions and go through things. You guys have a lot of stuff on your agenda today. Today's not the day to do that, because you've got enough things to go through, and it's going to take a whole meeting to actually discuss if you really wanted to go through just the weed control issue.
Nothing's more important to Long Lake than.
But what I want to get through to you, and what I want to make sure that you guys all understand, is that we and the township and the township board understand that the weeds are very important, and the weed control issue is extremely important to Long Lake, as it has been for many years. And that we also are committed to making sure that nothing's going to impact what goes on out there. Next year, you're going to have the same kind of weed control that you have this year. Little Island's going to continue to do the weed control out there. Rest assured, you're gonna get the same weed control treatment that you're getting now. It's not gonna change. It's gonna be the same thing you're getting currently. It's gonna be the same thing you've been getting for the last 5 years. You're not gonna notice any alterations in what you've been receiving. You're gonna get the same kind of treatment, you're gonna get the same kind of work, you're gonna get the same kind of stuff you've been getting. So don't be concerned about that. Take a breath. If we want to go over the details of what's going on and why things are happening, we can have a meeting about that. And we can go through those things and talk about that. But right now, I just want you to understand. PLM is going to continue to be the weed control contractor. They're going to continue to perform your weed control. They're going to continue doing it in the future. That's not going to change. So you're going to get the same treatment you've been getting. That's not going to alter. You're still going to be able to use your lake just as you have been with no changes whatsoever. So that's not going to have an alteration.
Just
Just
one
wanted to
thing,
be-
Fred, you're going against the will of the people. The people along Lake want a lake manager. There's very good reasons for that, and you know the reasons for it. If you're a public servant, you're supposed to reflect the will of the people, and you're not doing that now. So I just want you to know that we're not going to stand for what you're doing. We're going to do something about it.
Okay.
Especially when Will came for it for ourselves. That's the main thing. I mean, we could see if we were asking the other township members to pay for it. We're funding our own issue.
Like I said, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on here. We can have and I've already told these gentlemen up here. I have no problem in having a meeting just to talk about this, and we could do that. I would
We'll
love,
get the township meeting.
I would love to do that.
We'll get the township.
The
meeting.
township meeting is not the place to
Well,
do
What do you
that.
want to have?
What's your meeting, Fred?
And that's why I said, we need a meeting just to talk about this. You set it up,
That's why we're here.
set it up.
There
Let
seems to be a
them,
busy
you guys
man.
talk about this and set it up.
What time does your meeting end today?
Set it up. Pardon?
What time does your meeting end that you have to go to now?
I have no idea. It's not my meeting. I'm going to their meeting.
Well, things aren't gonna be the same if Jennifer's not there and her management skills. So you can't say they're gonna be the same.
Yeah,
That's true. That's definitely not true.
What I
Okay.
keep- what I keep-
again, I'm not
what I
gonna
keep
get into this
remembering-
discussion. I'm not gonna get into this discussion right now because there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into this. There's a whole bunch of
What I
things
keep
beyond this.
remembering when we started this whole process. is when
Again,
You stood up
again.
here and you told us you did not want to be bothered with our weed issues.
This is,
You would
this is,
facilitate the
Guys,
tax issue.
guys,
but
guys,
you did
this is
wanna
not,
get
this is
involved.
not the
You
place to
did
get
not
into
want to
this.
be anywhere involved in anything. There's too many lakes
This is
for
not,
you to get involved.
this is
So
not,
what has changed?
this is not
What
the
has
place to
changed?
get into this.
What has changed?
I'm not gonna get into this here.
No,
I'm just
you have
saying,
nothing
let's
to
set up a
stand on,
meeting,
Brad.
gentlemen,
All right. Let's
set up a meeting to go on with this and we can discuss this whole thing.
I will set
This
up,
is
I
not
will
the
set up
place
a
to do
Zoom
this.
meeting.
Bullshit.
After this meeting, we're gonna set up a meeting. Let's
Set up a meeting, go through
Interested
this.
parties
You guys
on the
can-
lake,
we
and then
can sit
we'll-
there and go through this,
Okay,
have
Fred,
this whole thing aired out. I have no problem in doing that.
we
Yeah,
will.
This
no
is-
dog
you
in
guys-
this hunt. We're the ones that live on the lake. You don't.
This is my community. This lake is in
Oh.
my community. Oh,
We know
stop.
what
All right.
you know.
Okay, all right,
Okay,
guys.
Fred, we'll
As I
be in
said,
touch.
set the
We'll be in
meeting,
touch.
We'll be
okay?
in touch.
Thank you
Just
very
be
much.
advised, your treatment will continue. PLM will continue. You'll still get your lake treated.
Who's gonna evaluate what we need?
You know this other guy personally or something?
They have
PLM?
no scientific background. They just go out and spray. They just want to nuke the lake
PLM, they don't want to, they've been the same ones that have been treating your lake for the last 5 years.
under the guidance of
Same-
Jennifer's company.
Same ones that treat 3 other lakes within the township for the last 10 years. Same company.
I think,
All
right,
right,
I think
Thank
we can
you.
move on.
We
Thank
will
you
be
very
in touch.
much.
We'll be in touch.
And we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, Fred.
All right. And let's get into the actual business meeting and we will start with the roll call, please. Diane?
I just.
Take
need
a
to
deep breath,
pause for-
everybody.
I was gonna
Take a
say, I just
pause.
need to pause for a moment here.
I do these meetings all the time. I smile.
You don't need to apologize.
Yeah, we're gonna cover all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna cover all that today and calmly and
All right, let's get the roll call going. Michael Lestich,
here.
Chris Lyon,
Present.
David Worth,
Here via Zoom.
I'm here. Sue Bedra,
Yes.
Deb Salget.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Cheryl DeBoer. Janine Davis. Fran Seams. Debbie Waltz,
Here.
Sue Schwark. Lon Hiller,
Here.
Julie Rubix.
Here.
Jeremy Kloska.
What an asshole. I'm here.
Well, I don't think that. Who's Julie? Okay, I want to put a face to the name. Hi.
Yes, hi. Michelle Taylor,
Here.
Rose Bargo. Chris Till,
Here.
Karen Betzing. Laura Bennett. That's it.
Okay.
Next up, the minutes of the July 31st, 2021 meeting. Diane Carroll has prepared those. They are in the agenda packet. Unfortunately, I didn't get them printed for the in-room meeting. Any questions on those? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. So moved by Maureen Hearn, second by Charles Hamilton. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, did you have a question?
You got a roll call of directors, and Bob Getty's name wasn't on there, but I'd like to announce that Bob passed away 2 days ago. So for those of you that don't know, very good friend, very good neighbor, very good friend of the association in the lake, so I don't know what's to go out to his family, they're suffering right now.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you for mentioning that,
thank you
Bob.
for that. I meant to mention that. Things got a little off track at the beginning here. So, yes, Mr. Guinea's been around for how many years on this lake?
Oh, my gosh.
He was 83.
We wish his family nothing but the best.
So we
during this
have a
difficult
motion
time.
on the table.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes. All in favor?
All right.
Meeting minutes approved. We will now move to the treasurer report.
Treasurer's report, you see the revenues for the last month, $580, expenses $62. The postmaster, we only had one key for the lockbox. We ended up getting a second key. That's the $12. In the fish fund, the two significant entries there are via the LLPOA golf outing put together by Jeremy, which he'll talk to later. That was the total revenue generated, the 713, the $200, the first place winners donated their money back to the fish fund. I move to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Second.
Motion made to approve the treasurer report as presented by David Worth, seconded by Diane Carroll. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. I would like to add, last month's budget had an additional amount for web. We had bumped up the budget for the web internet to $2,000. I spoke to our web provider and is actually will be closer to $1,000. So that's will be reflected in the updated budget. What's the next item?
I've got lake treatment update up on the screen right now, Michael. But,
Okay.
You want to head that direction?
Should we do the fun stuff first or the lake treatment first? Okay, we're all here. You've all received an email from me regarding the status of lake treatment. We had a meeting with, Chris and I had a meeting with Mr. Lewis and Mr. Huthen.
Yeah.
And we were told that the budget for our fund balance, which is our savings account for the fish fund, the lake treatment fund is empty. We had a treatment in July, is it July?
Yes.
That would cost about $24,000. That was a bit higher than it has been in the past. We've been averaging between $30,000 and $35,000 since 2018 or so. And we have been spending down the savings account, and that savings account is now depleted.
Does that include the management fee?
That does include the management fee.
And how much is that? Can you break that up?
I'll break it up. Yeah, the management fee has been $10,500 from Restorative Lake Sciences since 2014. I have that right. Somebody gave me this actual first agreement. Annually. Has not changed. And that is potentially an issue too, but we're here first of all to figure out what we would like to do. Restorative Lake Sciences, I think everyone here knows what they've done on the lake. They brought this lake back to life in 2013-14. And they have been providing similar services, analyzing through the use of scientific methods. And the president of it is Jennifer Jones, and she has a PhD in limnology and lake management. So that's what they do. The chemical treatments have varied over the years depending on the weed pop-up and the nuisance natives that we've been treating a little bit here. Last year was actually below budget, so we were heading in the right direction. But now that this fund is depleted, well, let me back up. In 2018, the township passed a resolution for $25,000 per year for this service. It's been actually costing us $35,000. So they've been spending $10,000 per year of that fund balance. And so we've been assessed less than it's actually cost us for the last several years.
Well, I knew that the 3 years prior to 18, 15,
Yes.
16, and 17, they saw that it was costing way over $25,000 a year.
That's
So
correct.
it's their responsibility, Fred Lewis and the board, to say, hey, look at Long Lake, you guys are spending more than what you guys have been, or we spending more than we're taking in from you folks. We need to change this, but they didn't. They left it there knowing that we're.
Actually, they adopted, in 2018, they adopted the resolution that set it at $25,000 plus 5% a year increase, which I believe Chris said they have not done the total increase.
They have not done the total.
They're just approving the chemical application and disregarding the $10,000 management fee
Correct.
and finding another place to get the 10,000 from, and finally just put their foot down and said there's no money left. But they foresaw that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Why, that was poor management, that, well, I put 25,000 in, one was spending 30 or 35. They could have just upped the assessment back then, and we wouldn't have this problem.
They could have set the assessment at the average cost and including the management fee. There was about $60,000 in the savings account for weed control treatment. So spending down a little bit of that could make some sense, but to do it at this rate, and then now we are broke. Now that assessment is, and so let me get to the next point, which was we can solve this budget problem by not using RLS. And I said, you're solving a budget problem by eliminating services that I personally would like to continue those services. And I believe a lot of others would too.
Right.
I did do a little survey, and I'd like to just touch on some of the results of that. The first thing was, who should be in charge of the lake treatment or the management of that? The township supervisor or the township board or the owners of the property? It was 100% the owners of Long Lake property. I think we all agree that that's logical. As far as the quality, how people are feeling about it, over 97% of 115 people that responded, 97% said they're satisfied with the quality of the lake, or a couple people said they'd like fewer weeds, a couple people said they'd like more weeds because they like to fish. So, but overall, they've been satisfied, and then I asked, would you accept a $15 or so increase in the assessment to bring that up to a $35,000 per year assessment so that we can continue to enjoy the services of RLS and the weed treatment? And the answer was resoundingly yes.
How do we do that?
How do we do one?
Raise to $15.
We go to the board and say, we want you to raise our assessment. And because Fred alone, the supervisor alone, cannot make this decision.
It's just one vote, right?
He is one vote, and the board of trustees is the governing body in this situation. So we need to lobby them and say, we are satisfied, please raise our assessment.
How many people are on the board and who are
I think are there 5 on the board?
Yeah, there's 5.
It's either 5 or 7.
there? Fred is one and Roger is another?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
We had talked about putting contact information for all of the township board members on the website. It's something we talked about yesterday. I don't know, like, were you ever able to find if there's a service that we could use? We were also going to try and see if there was a way that we could set it up so that you just go and say, put in your information, and click a button and it sends a form letter to everybody on the board. We were gonna see if we could make it really simple for people, but that's something that we just talked about yesterday.
Okay, so you're still working on
Yep, but at a minimum, we will get contact information on the website for all of the township board members.
Right now, we're at 128 responses.
Yes, Chuck.
And,
Chuck,
yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
Thank you
Yep.
for that survey. It was very professionally done. I hope everybody responds to it and contact as many of your neighbors to respond to it, because the more responses we get, the more weight we have. Getting back to the budget issue, when we originally set up this program, we had a discussion with Fred in his office. And it was suggested to him that he have a $50,000, if you want to call reserve, to maintain our lake. We felt that there might be contingencies there for unknown problems in the future. And that we backfill that $50,000 with assessments each year. So the assessment would vary from year to year to maintain that $50,000. If he had done that, he would not be in this problem that he's in today. So that was the original discussion that was not followed.
Right. Let me show you. So this is a chart I made. The blue bars, that's the escrow reserve fund balance. Each year you can see it go down, and here we are. All right. So this is what happened this year. The red line is the expenses. The green line is the revenue we brought in. So as you see, we've been spending down that fund balance because our expenses have exceeded our revenues since 2000. I can't believe that, but I think it's 2014.
Just one other piece of information you may not remember is that we were able to negotiate almost a $40,000 refund from the legal company at the beginning of this program.
And that is part of that fund base.
Exactly. So we had $40,000 really to start with to kickstart this program. It was a pretty heated negotiation, but at least they gave us that much money back. So that was in the fund here.
Chuck, was the Lake Association fee in there as well, or was it just?
I can't really do it.
Sorry, was in that number, in the budget, was there a Lake
Shift
Association?
Shift F2.
Yes, absolutely. Budget, but we suggested that you maintain that level of reserve for our, so we get it.
Hey guys, we need it.
Contingencies that we have.
Let's take a quick time out here. The 18 or so folks on the Zoom are having a hard time hearing us.
Okay.
And I think it's because the microphone is not picking it up.
Okay.
So I think we've got to ask folks if they could come down to speak. at the
You can come
microphone.
down right here.
Okay.
We can pick it up.
Yeah.
That's the beauty.
Please don't forget that Mike Solomon is on board with us, so we should hear from him soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So if anybody wants to talk, just step over here and
Thank you.
that would help. us
Sorry
out.
about that, guys.
It's okay.
And I think that's the end. Okay. So any other thoughts? The next step would be go to the Board of Trustees and give them our thoughts. Mr. Lewis said we do not represent the entire lake, which is absolutely true. We have 269 active members, 43 expired that have not paid, they passed due or maybe have moved. That's over 300 properties on the lake. That's 60%. So, yes, sir.
If I could make a suggestion, and I know we got a short time to do this, but if we could marshal our zone directors to maybe start this weekend, a campaign of people in their area to get signatures, explaining what's going on and trying to get responses from them. The more signatures we have, I think, the more power we're going to have going into that meeting with Fred. I think it's important that we show us a show of strength in this thing, because that's the only thing he responds to. Long term, and this brings up a point that we're at his mercy to treat our lake and going so forth. At some point, I think we need to create a coalition of lakes in the township, contact the other lakes in the area, and form a coalition so that we have a concentrated voice going toward him. Again, I think power is the only thing he responds to. And if he sees that votes are not going to go his way, and I don't know that we can accumulate that just around Long Lake because we don't have that many long-term residents, but if we can coalesce with the other lakes in the area and explain our situation, and that they may be in the same spot in the future based on this dictatorial position, that we need to coalesce together and form a coalition.
And I think it's important that the lake owners understand the full process of what Jennifer's company does. You know, it kind of all starts in the fall. You know, they take their fall survey, they analyze all of that, and they kind of start predicting possibly what the winter is going to affect our lake, depending on how much ice we get, the density of our ice. They come out in the spring, they do another survey and kind of look at it and say, okay, and they survey the whole lake. I've been on that survey with them many, many times. There's not one homeowner that's neglected. They look at the native weeds and they look at for the Eurasian milfoil. They come up with a plan, what they feel is a healthy lake plan for us. Not just to go out because Joe over here wants his beach area sprayed. They come up with a scientific plan to keep us a healthy lake for fishing, swimming, all around good sports lake. They go out and they look at the different applicators and they recommend what applicators that we should have do our lake. Once they select that by our recommendation, they are at the lake with their map, GPS laid out for the applicator, with certain chemicals for certain areas. And they make sure that that applicator is using the proper amount of chemicals that should be in there. And they have in the past released applicators at that point because they are not giving us what we're paying for. Once that is settled, the applicator comes out, they're managing that process. Then midsummer comes around, 3rd, 4th week of July, they come back out as the native weeds are popping up and they do another survey, exactly how they did in June. And they go through that second process again, just like they did in June with the applicators. And then it starts all over again in the fall. They do their final survey, see how healthy our lake is, see what's responding, things of that nature. And like Jennifer's company has told us right from the beginning, once the Eurasian milfoil was in our lake, it's never going to go away. It's never going to go away. Those seeds go to the bottom, they settle into the muck. They might not germinate for 2, 3, 4 years. Some years we might have 2 or 3, 5 acres of milfoil. But this past year we had 30 acres.
30.
Next year it could be 1 or 2 acres. Could be 70 acres. We don't know. So there's more to it than just getting an applicator out and just spraying our lake, how they kind of see, well, yeah, we got this, we got that.
Well, and
For the people that have been here for 20, 30 years and lived through what we went through, it was horrible. People's boats were being damaged. People were not putting in boats. People were selling homes because they thought our values were going to go right down to nothing.
Well, people were adding their own chemicals too.
And they're adding their own chemicals. Dangerous. So this is more than what Fred is just gonna, like he started out for saying, oh, everything's gonna be fine, you're not gonna see nothing. No change. There's no basis to stand on and say that.
Hey, we've got Mike Solomon here. Can we pop him on the screen? If you
yeah,
stop
and I was gonna say,
sharing yours.
before you bring Mike on really quick, just wanted to point out one of the things too, that we had talked about was, you know, we went the route of the weevils in the first place because nobody wanted chemicals in the lake. And at least for me personally, the thought of not having Jennifer in that space of guiding what's being put in the lake, we're at the whim of somebody who is incentivized to sell chemicals. At that point, PLM is in charge. They're the ones that are picking out the chemicals. They're the ones that are putting them in the lake in whatever quantity they deem appropriate. And I think that that goes against some of the fundamental things that we started with, where people didn't want to dump a bunch of chemicals in the lake, and that Jennifer provides us with the ability to, I guess, lightly manage the lake, as opposed to just going in and wiping out whatever weeds people find to be a nuisance in front of their cottage. So
Their surveys are very thorough. Like I said, I've been on several of those. They go out all around the lake, they throw out their big gavel hook and they pull in the weeds. They analyze every single weed that they pull in and they jot that down.
The $10,000 that we pay Jennifer and her company is certainly well worth it many times over.
That's about $20 per household.
All right.
Hang on.
Is this subsidized by the state or by the township?
No.
This is a public access lake.
It's
Now we
something.
have the best tournaments back on the lake, bringing all these boats in from different lakes.
There you go.
All right, we got Mike.
It's paid for
We
out
tried
of
to
the,
do that.
yeah.
We tried it.
Okay, hey, guys,
Guest of honor here, Mike Solomon from
Hey, Mike.
Restorative Lake Sciences. Good morning, Mike.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm darn near dumbfounded and speechless after Fred's comments. I'm an elected official. I'm drain commissioner in Wexford County, and I would not be next year if I handled the program the way he just suggested. I don't think there's a lot of incentive or use in going over, what we did last year. We were not, I do want to point out that we were not aware of budget limitations, or we would have adjusted the program to reflect that. We've been very creative about a lot of the approaches that we've taken on Long Lake. We needed special approval from MDEQ on the first treatment when you had over 300 acres of milfoil, and we had to monitor it for 2 or 3 years because it was a creative but very successful program. Some of your people have gone over, what RLS does, and they did a pretty thorough job. We also do water quality on the lake and create an annual report so that your people can see what we're doing and maintain the string of information that we have. Just as an example, a couple of lakes we took over, 2,000 acre lake, the previous consultant was doing 500 points. We're doing over between 1,700 and 2,000 points. When we take, and I'm not here to say anything negative about PLM, but as we've taken over lakes from them, we have never been provided a survey map of where they're going to treat. They tend to do surveys and treatment at the same time. Now, there may be lakes where they are doing that, but we are not aware of them. As an applicator, they're excellent with oversight. But most of their people are high school graduates. Some of them have 1 or 2 years of college. Bree Grable, who oversees the program, does have a general natural resources degree. As has been pointed out, Jennifer has a PhD. I've got a master's. With the people that work in the northern unit doing the survey, and Jennifer and I, we've got over 80 years of experience in lake management, and we're creative about it. And I give a lot of that credit to Jennifer. She's not to just go out and spray and see what happens. We use innovative techniques. We would love to use some of the absorption methods on the streams coming into Long Lake. Right now, we can't get Eagle's approval on that. So I think that's all I have to say about the lake. I do want to thank both boards. Chuck Hamilton was just so instrumental in bringing RLS on, and Jim LaBerge, Lynn and Chris Till, just the whole group, Mike Lesich and the new board have been really professional and complimentary of RLS, and we really appreciate it. It was obvious to me that Fred does not want you at township meetings. And that may be the place to do it. If he comes out and has a little meeting with you in private or by Zoom, it's a whole different thing than he having to have the whole board there and listen to negative public input. I chair the Lake Mitchell Improvement Board. It's never fun to have people critical of your approach, but we would love to continue to work on your lake. Long Lake is a jewel. It's a deep, clear water lake. It's just absolutely beautiful. All of you have a huge investment on that lake with your either primary homes or secondary residences. And, you know, if it takes $25 or $50 more, I don't know what you're paying. And that's been a problem. We have not been clearly identified with what the budget is, or we certainly would have recommended adjustments. In general, RLS recommends that a board keep 2 times the average expenditures, average annual expenditures in a fund balance in case something goes wrong. None of us know when the next invasive species is going to be here. We're dealing with a couple lakes in Mason County that now have European frogbit. It's a whole different ball game with that. And you've got a public launch. The next one is waiting to show up, so to speak. But we wish, you know, no matter how this goes, we've enjoyed the working relationship, and we certainly wish the lake nothing but continued success.
Thank you, Mike. There was one thing you had said, regarding nuisance natives, because we had talked about the budget, and that if you had known there was a budgetary limit, so to speak, that we would have perhaps dialed back the nuisance native treatment a little bit. We didn't do a lot of it, but that certainly did add to it. There were a couple other treatments that were authorized outside of RLS or requested outside of the 2 annual treatments of the lake to hit spots on the lake. Is that
And
correct?
that happens every year. Every year, those 2 people call up Fred. We want a special spray. Fred doesn't okay it with anybody. He just calls up PLM. PLM comes out, and it's additional charge. Some years, it has been like a week before the midterm spray was going to come out, which easily could have waited another week.
I think that goes to the point of having a single point of contact with someone like RLS that manages all of the requests and then gets feedback from the lake property owners on, yes, we want to do that or we don't. We have to stay within the fiscal ability to do so.
Exactly. Fred doesn't worry about that.
No, I do. And as you saw, Mike, on the slide, we were at $60,000 approximately in fund balance. And then that's been spent down over the past 5 years, which leads us to an artificial budget problem in my view. Yes.
Mike pointed out one thing. If we only paid for this service that he talked about, it would be worthwhile for each of us. The recognition of new invasive species coming along, they have the expertise to see that early and nip it in the bud rather than react to it like we had to do with the Eurasian milfoil. If it was just that one service that we paid for, it would be worth it.
This company handles lakes outside of our multiple states.
I think you have
So they know stuff
150
that's
lakes.
coming, and they're already dealing with it before it hits our lake. So when it hits our lake, they know how to treat it.
And the township can go ahead and do another assessment period. You can do that at any time. To do it, if you're increasing greater than the 5%, you need to have the public hearings again, but it's not an onerous task, and especially if you've got the support of the people who are going to be assessed.
So Mike, and Maureen, I'll get to you in a second. So Mike, you brought up a good point about the public hearing, and to raise that assessment, it would basically be at the September meeting, they could pass a resolution to set a public hearing, have that public hearing in October, and then adjust the assessment based upon the township board vote. That's, and there's a notice in the paper that has to be done. Is that essentially the process?
Yes, I'm not positive under the Township Act, but under Part 309, you also have to send a letter to each of the owners around the lake, and I suspect that's part of the township act also,
That's
but
probably true. Thank you.
Yeah.
But those are the things, people have to be notified. There has to be a notice in the paper, public hearing set in September, public hearing held in October, and then the board votes on whether to increase or change the assessment.
You need a
Yes.
percentage of owners to respond to.
No, not once the special assessment district is created. There is a public hearing opportunity where they can come and protest or agree. They can, but once the assessment district is created, you don't have to have 50% plus one agree to the assessment. That is then a township board function.
So is that for permanent residents or for all residents?
Oh,
In terms of what?
Assessments, as far as attending a meeting.
Anybody can attend a public meeting. Yes, you don't have to be a voter or anything like that. You don't even have to live here. You can just go to a public meeting. This public hearing is exactly the hearing of the public. So whoever wants to speak can. But the process is, as Mike said, is not onerous. It just takes 2 steps, setting a public hearing and having it, and then taking a vote. So I don't know what else we have for Mike. Anybody else have? Oh, Maureen.
Mike, we also appreciate the fact that you have been present at every single one of our membership meetings. You have communicated accurately with us the problems, the concerns you have. You and Jennifer have made wonderful recommendations. Your transparency is something that we absolutely do not have with Fred. And we appreciate everything that you've done, and we hope that this situation works itself out, because your input has been vital to maintain the lake.
I appreciate the comments, Maureen, and I think, you know, obviously you served on the board for ages, and the relationship with RLS and the board has been really what's made this program work the way it has. And we appreciate the positive feedback. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think, is there anything else you want to add about the actual lake treatment in August, or are we good on that?
No, I think we've covered enough of it that we're good.
Okay. All
Can I
right.
add
We'll let
one
you know what
thing?
happens at the results of this meeting. We got
Mike?
something coming up. Yes,
Can I add one thing
yes. Who's
that
that?
wasn't brought up at the meeting? And thanks, Mike Solomon. We go back a long way. But what this whole group needs to know, if there's anybody out there that thinks not having RLS is a good deal, I'm here to tell you, for at least the last 2 years, I've had to go into the township almost every quarter and tell them to pay the darn bill to RLS, because Fred sat on it and would not approve it. I have one word for that: malfeasance. Boom. So you need to know what you're dealing with. This is something he's been working toward for a long time. At first, I thought maybe they simply forgot. No, he sat on that bill and refused to approve it. Just so you know. Sorry, Mike, thanks. You're great.
I started right from the very first application that RLS started, the very first one. There was contracts, there were dates, and Fred still would not authorize payment.
All right. Well, let's let Mike go.
All right.
I think
Thank you, Mike.
he's stared into the Zoom camera long enough. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you later. All right, let me get to.
How difficult would it be for us to take it over? Would you have to fight us on that? Is it some sort of
Yes.
major process that we have to go through, or we'd love to.
well, so that's the next,
Yes.
that's kind of the next step in terms of next steps.
You want to share that slide? We, and
Which
can
one?
I just introduce it and give you credit?
Okay, that's fine.
So we were sitting around the campfire last night having an adult beverage,
Or two?
and Diane said to me, you know, what about a resolution? And so that we can clearly put on the record what the property owners association members would like to see happen.
So we would, so the resolution then would go to the township.
Yes, and this is a
Clearly show-
non-binding. yes.
Yeah, to clearly show the desire of the members of the LLTOA, right?
Yep.
If you wanna read.
I'm going to read it out loud. It's a resolution by the Long Lake property owners regarding weed control management on Long Lake. We, the members of the Long Lake property owners, through our board of directors, do hereby adopt the following resolution declaring our wishes regarding the management of weed control on Long Lake. Number one, we request that the Plainfield Township Board of Trustees increase the special assessment levied under Public Act 188 to $35,000 per annum, with a 5% increase each year to cover anticipated costs of weed control and management. Number two, that Plainfield Township continues to manage the financial matters pertaining to assessment and collection of the weed control funds as provided under Public Act 188 of the state of Michigan. That would be collecting the money and paying the bill. The Long Lake property owners, this is number three, Long Lake Property Owners Association membership appreciates the management, analysis, and other services provided by Restorative Lake Sciences, RLS, and wishes to continue to engage RLS as our lake manager and requests that the Township Board of Trustees continue the engagement of RLS to provide said services. Number four, the Long Lake Property Owners Association, through their Board of Directors, wishes to be the primary point of contact and manager of Restorative Lake Sciences and agrees to work within financial and budgetary limitations of the Special Assessment District. That's the resolution.
And that's how it was supposed to be set up, and that's exactly what Fred wanted was the last item. He did not want to be involved with issues on our lake.
He told me that too.
He stood right in front of all of us when we were organizing this.
Does that answer your, that's how we would tell the
I have one
township.
question.
Subject to their approval.
That's correct.
Subject to the township board of approval. And so part of what we talked about was not only presenting them with the resolution in advance of the September meeting, but also sharing the survey information with them. I mean, Chuck talked about going around and gathering signatures. I mean, I know that would all have to happen before would we figure the September 14th meeting? 15th.
Well, I think that's a great idea because we have so many people up this weekend. So-
Yeah, and right now, Mike and I are planning on going to the township board meeting.
I'll be there.
I'll be
I think everybody that can.
Yeah.
On that resolution, I thought there was something in there that should be changed.
Okay.
It said, when you said Fred is in charge of getting the taxes.
Plainfield Township.
How does that read again? I can't
Read that.
It said number two, that Plainfield Township continues to manage the financial matters pertaining to assessment and collection of the weed control funds.
Okay, before manage, can you put only in there? To only manage
I can do that.
the financials.
Yep.
Because of the tax reason. We don't want him to come in and
Pertaining to assessment, collection,
BLM
and
to
payment.
spray somebody's front yard.
What time is that township meeting? Do you guys know on the 15th?
No.
We'll get something out we'll get a communication out in terms of when the meeting is and where exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a good idea if this, if we pass this resolution, I think it would be a good idea to email this resolution out to everybody along with date, time, location of the township board meeting.
We will do that.
And possibly the board members prior to the meeting.
That will be done too.
Do you know what the aversion is to having this company? Why is he so against this? What's the motive?
Well,
That's what
we're
I'm
not-
trying to figure out from day one.
Yeah.
Like I said, the very first application that RLS did, they could not be, they did their fall survey, they turned in the recommendations. It was all spelled out when they had to have all that stuff done by, and then within 30 days, they would be paid. It took us like 2 or 3 months to get her money. She kept calling up, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? We've done everything you guys have asked. It's been like that from day one.
And yeah, that wasn't just the only time we did that.
It means extra work for Fred.
But he didn't want.
Yeah.
Just one suggestion, you may not respond to this, but the original thought was that, and I talked to Jennifer about this early on, that if we had a contingency fund of $50,000, that would cover any extraordinary situations that develop on the lake. If they had to respond to it quickly, in other words, it was over and above their normal cost, you might want to consider that 50,000 rather than 35, just for that reason, and maintaining that level in the reserve. You might want to word it that way. It's just a suggestion.
the goal is to build up a fund balance, because this year was a heavy application in August or July,
Mhm.
which was a surprise. Last year was great, this year not so great. Let's see, what was I gonna say?
Mike?
Yeah.
Quick question. So let's say we pass this resolution. Does it go to Fred and Fred decide whether or not it makes the agenda for the board meeting, or do we have to, we have a loud discussion
He has,
at that meeting?
they have a responsibility to set the amount during their budget, so they put it on the tax rolls. So it has to be discussed in either September or October. So it gets on the December tax roll. So it will be a topic. Whether this resolution is considered, I don't know, but we can certainly carry a
You said
copy.
he could
in.
delay it in the September meeting, and then it'd be too
Right.
late. Then it'd be too late
Exactly.
to get to the assessment process.
I think this is one of those times when, in my community, we call it filling the room. It's where you get as many people as possible to say, we need this done, it's our property, and
we're willing to pay for it.
we're willing to pay for it, and that's really the key here. There is no cost, and I said it to Fred. Well, I want to give a couple other points. Fred told us flat out that he had indicated to Restorative Lake Sciences that they were done, that they were not going to be
He fired them.
renewed.
He fired them. And then
But he
Jennifer
has no
resigned.
authority to do that. The township board sets the contract. It's the board of trustees that is the controlling governing body. The supervisor cannot simply break a contract with someone. He can certainly avoid or try to avoid putting it on the agenda for renewal. But he doesn't have the authority to, as he said, fire. He told him
I
that you're
talked to
done.
Jennifer 2 nights ago, and she confirmed that whole conversation from Fred, starting out joking with her, and then said, "I got some bad news for you. You're fired." That was the end of it.
And you asked him about that, didn't you, Michael? Didn't you call him out and say you don't have the authority just on your own?
Yes, we talked about things like that.
And what was his response?
Well, actually, he said, well, I'm not going to renew them and then I said, well, you can't do that. And he said, well, it's the board of trustees. And then I said, well, why are you waiting till December? Why don't you tell them now? If you're not going to do this, why wait till, if you're not going to put the money in to pay them, then they're done. You should tell them now. The next day, he called her and told her they're fired. And that was Wednesday, I think.
Yes,
What
Wednesday.
legal remedies do we have as an association against Fred? It seems like we're throwing mud into his hands. So how are we getting no remedy?
Well, there is.
Legal action.
Well, I got a thing from Maureen Horn, who keeps great records, and she gave me a article on an attorney in Grand Rapids that I'm going to reach out to on Tuesday, probably this weekend, and say, I want to talk to you about that and see what our options are. Because really, I think we'd like to be in control as a group of lake owners, not me, but that we make intelligent decisions about our own future on this lake. Yes.
Mr. Glassick, isn't this similar to the gypsy moth treatment that we received also? Isn't it a pest that we're looking to have a meaningful control over?
Yes.
So wouldn't it be incorporated in what is in effect already for the gypsy moth treatment?
They're two separate programs.
Well, there's still pesticides that are
Yes.
being applied.
Well, the gypsy moth stuff is a different, it's not the same kind of chemicals, but I'm
But
not
it's,
sure your
it's,
question.
it's, the money's coming out of a different special assessment district for the gypsy moth specifically. Whereas
But I'm not sure I understand the question. Could you?
All right, I'm a former category 3 pesticide applicator.
Okay.
And pesticides come in under insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, and among other things. So you have the gypsy moth is an insecticide. And the weed control in the lake, which is a herbicide.
Right.
So we're talking about management for a very, very, very similar type treatment. And it's governed, it's protected, it's licensed, it's regulated.
Correct.
And I'm thinking that, geez, piggyback for what we're looking to do for the lake treatment on top of what's being already in place for the gypsy moth treatment.
I think it's a question of magnitude. The gypsy moth was a county-wide program, and we're talking about a specific lake issue. So I think it's the magnitude of the issue and the governance of that.
And to the point, the district, the special assessment district is people that have waterfront property. There's 500 parcels.
Approximately 500, yeah.
And the Gypsy Moth program, the district and the borders are much larger. And those are contested too, because some people said you didn't get mine.
Right.
And so we know the specific population of people and parcels.
And the larger it gets, the less control we have.
I can see his point. If we could do that just for the lake, like they do for the Gypsy Moss for the county. And then when we need more control, I mean, more treatment, the money goes in. So we don't have to do this. Maybe Fred would have to raise our taxes to $10 one year and 15 the next, without going through all this problem of getting the people to approve the extra $10 or $15.
For the weed control,
Yes.
the weed control, really, it only takes 3 votes on the board of trustees.
We just need to
Either-
convince 3
either.
people on the board of trustees to vote to reopen the special
Right.
assessment.
We have how many ones on the lake? Is Roger?
Rogers on the lake, yes.
Is Roger present?
Roger is not
He's
present.
not present.
That's convenient.
Do you know his feelings?
Well, he started the whole.
He started
process.
this whole conversation.
Roger
he-
does not want RLS.
He told me flat out, and I'll say it right on camera, told me flat out that if he could, that he has no use for them, they provide no value to him. And I
He was
said,
on
I
the
disagree.
original team.
That's-
And that was a meeting Michael and I attended when we first became aware of this issue.
So that's where we're at.
There, okay, Michael, Dan and Fran Dolman have submitted a suggested modification to paragraph 1
Okay,
with an annual increase, the lesser of 5% or the anticipated costs.
Yeah, I thought that was,
Yeah.
that should have been in stone, the 5%. Make it 10% and build something up.
how about forecasted?
Yeah, that's fine.
Forecasted anticipated costs or however, yeah. But I think we want to make sure we have a goal here that the rainy day fund, or fund balance, is increased to a sustainable level.
I can do that.
Yeah, and the question is going to be, what is the sustainable level? And Chuck, you've said 50,000, I believe Mike Solomon reflected that.
It's a subjective number.
It's a subjective number. I've had some conversations and, I felt perhaps 1 times the annual budget of, say, $35,000 would be sufficient. The thing is we're starting out in the hole here.
Right.
Okay, and we need to begin to build it again. I don't know if we want to build it all at once and say, everybody, instead of kicking in $56 this year, the 35,000 is, relatively becomes $70 a year, or do we want everybody to kick in $150 and get us a fund built and then level it out at the $70 level?
Yeah, Mike mentioned twice your annual cost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. So that would put us at having a fund balance somewhere between 50 and 60,000.
Brett's put us in this pickle with this budgeting process, this big hit now instead of the gradual each year. So people ask the question, and that's the reason.
Well, in fact, the same thing happened with the Gypsy Moth issue. They way underestimated and grabbed next year's money, and now they're in the same middle. Right.
Okay, so you're modifying, Michael's modifying the language based on that.
I
Thank you,
did.
Dan and Fran.
Yeah, I'll just read it real quick. To $35,000 per annum with a lesser of 5% or forecasted cost increase, not a lesser of.
The greater.
With a greater of, yes, you said lessers.
I did say lesser, that's what they offered.
I think greater of 5% or forecasted cost increase.
Does anybody object to that? I don't.
I added, develop a fund balance that creates a sufficient reserve fund to cover unanticipated issues that may arise. That's a 5th point.
Who's gonna develop that,
Who's going to develop what?
that budget?
That would
Do
be,
you think it's clear enough? They know? The
township, so it's not a matter of them understanding it, it's a matter of them doing it. They would have done what they're supposed to in the first place, we wouldn't be here, right?
And I think it behooves us to make sure that they do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it transparent? Do we see a copy? Did the treasurer, our treasurer?
I have never seen or heard anything about a budget. And unfortunately, in government, sometimes we make assumptions that government is looking out in our best interests. Sometimes they don't look at them. Yeah.
Can I just take a suggestion? I think it's a great idea for all of us to attend.
All right.
Hey, guys, yeah.
With Zoom, it gets all hard to pick up. And so Mike,
That
go
if
ahead.
we're going to attend the township meeting, that we have a spokesperson at that board meeting. Otherwise, it's going to be a free-for-all and very disorganized. So if we're going to go as a group, I think we should organize and have a pitch person or someone to speak to the resolution, who can articulate it and who can make a very sound point for the association.
I do want to do that.
Since he offered the thing.
Well, I tapped it out on the computer. She told me what to write. But I'd be happy to do that. But I also think that it's important that other residents or other property owners speak up and say, I agree with that, or I add a point or something like that. But it consolidated, here's why we're here. I represent these, I'm speaking on behalf of these people, but they're going to speak too. I think that really does add to the.
I'll talk to a couple of board members that I know before the meeting.
Okay. All right. So what do you think of this resolution? Is there
Any commentary from Zoom?
Yes.
We got one.
Yeah.
Chris and others, I think if you put the greater of, you run the risk of requiring additional board township approval. If you make it the lesser of, you do not.
Michael, I wouldn't change it. I'd leave it at 5%. I think it gets back to the Headley Amendment that you can levy up to 5% per annum without any board approval. Once you go over 5% of whatever your budget was, then you need to bring them back in.
Actually, no. And here's why. Because I questioned Roger on that the very first time he told me this 5%, that Public Act 188 did not allow you to raise it more than 5%. I said, that's not true. And it's actually in the resolution they passed as the township board in 2018. So that can be changed, and it has nothing to do with Headley. Because let's say you're doing a road project and this year you need $100,000, next year you need $1 million, and you're paying for it with a special assessment district. You would just change that assessment to meet the needs of that budget year. And that's
okay.
But I did question him directly on that, and I didn't believe it when he told me. And nothing personal. It's just, and he acknowledged later that it was actually in the township resolution and not in the act. So unfortunately, I read a lot of public acts as a hobby. Yes.
Mike, don't you think we need to have a greater amount than 35,000 if we're going to try to build up a bank in there? I mean, 35, we could spend that in 1 year, easy.
Yes.
Depending on the circumstance. So
We have
if we're trying to build a
spent more than
balance,
that.
if we make it 40 or 45, then, over time, we'll gradually be adding a reserve. I think if we try to put a $50,000 reserve day one, you're going to have a lot of opposition from people.
Yeah, I can't, no offense, I can't support $150 next year.
Right.
I would like to see this build up, and to your point, if we went to $40,000 to start, and then annually, I'm gonna be going back every year to that board meeting and making sure that we get that we don't just assume that they're tough.
Yeah.
So, so I did change it to 40,000. You want to share my screen? Because I'm changing it.
I share your screen? Or do I have to stop sharing? Hang on, come on, cooperate. Hang on a second.
All right, anyway, I can read it for you and I can provide a written update. If somebody would like to entertain a motion for that, or would like me to read it one more time?
I think you should read it one more time before we.
All right, resolution by the Long Lake property owners regarding weed control management on Long Lake. We, the members of the Long Lake property owners, through our board of directors, do hereby adopt the following resolution declaring our wishes regarding the management of weed control on Long Lake. Number one, we request that the Plainfield Township Board of Trustees increase the special assessment levied under Public Act 188 to $40,000 per annum with 5% or forecasted cost increase each year to cover anticipated costs of weed control and management. Number two, that Plainfield Township continues to only manage the financial matters pertaining to assessment and collection of the weed control funds as provided under Public Act 188 of the state of Michigan. Number three, the Long Lake Property Owners Association membership appreciates the management, analysis, and other services provided by Restorative Lake Sciences and wishes to continue to engage RLS as our lake manager and requests that the Township Board of Trustees continue the engagement of RLS to provide said services. Number four, that Long Lake Property Owners Association, through its board of directors, wishes to be the primary point of contact and manager of Restorative Lake Sciences and agrees to work within financial and budgetary limitations of the Special Assessment District. Number five, develop a fund balance that creates a sufficient reserve fund to cover unanticipated issues that may arise. And that is the resolution.
I move the adoption of that resolution as just presented to us by Mr. Lessig. Ken DeBoer.
Ken DeBoer, motion by Ken DeBoer,
I second.
second by James LeBrecq. Any comment on that before we take a vote?
I heard it.
Chuck Hamilton thirds it. If there are no other comments, I would say all in favor, say aye.
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 Say it again louder.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Screen, and let's finish this meeting up and get out of here.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yes.
Are you still gonna have a meeting with Fred prior to this township meeting?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, are you gonna have a meeting or is it a separate meeting with the property owners before the township meeting?
We're probably gonna have, I'll pop a Zoom meeting up and we'll just all get together and chat. It's one of the
Okay.
good things
Maybe,
about Zoom.
maybe we have the meeting with Fred and then schedule a follow-up meeting.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, but I think we'll definitely have one before that board meeting. So we all are on the same page. All right, let's move on to,
Where do you want to go?
let's go to, skip the president report on board. Yeah.
Here we go.
I've talked enough. Let's go to fish report. Jeremy, are you still here?
I am still here, and I promise to make this very brief. First of all, got to give a shout out to Michigan State. Go green. All right, fishing's been good. A lot of good reports all the entire year long. A couple of bass boats. I talked to them yesterday. They were killing the bass yesterday, so some nice big ones. Craig Aggressics, your son-in-law, caught probably the biggest catfish I've ever seen last night off the dock. That thing was amazing. Talked to my guy Dave at Stony Creek Fisheries. He's telling me the fish are just looking amazing. So our walleye and crappie are looking great, and they're going to be delivered mid to late October. I'm going to have them delivered on the west side of the lake this year, kind of closer to the bar area there on that little road over there, because I've been flipping back and forth. Last year they got delivered at the boat launch, so this year it's going to be on the west end. They're going to get delivered in. I have to get the permits from the DNR in order for the fish planting, and I will get that squared away next week. So we'll be good to go there. And Brandon, Cam, thanks so much for all that and the golf outing and the donations and everything. That was amazing. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go to, boat parade is on here. I don't know if Kate is here or if she has anything to say, but I guess I forgot to take that off.
Okay.
Let's go to golf outing. Cam Thompson, are you here? Guess he's probably out selling houses. The golf outing was a success. Can you go to that picture? There you go.
There you go.
Those are all the people that were out golfing last weekend and added $700 to the fish fund plus $200 from the first place team. So thank you very much. Weather was okay, wasn't too bad. All right, let's go to zone director report. Julie?
So
for zone directors, I did send out an email stating that it was important to attend today's meeting and or in person or via Zoom because of the late.
Better didn't have time to put it in.
I didn't receive any emails from anyone following up or adding to anything that needed to be reported today. What I have heard around the lake and just through talking to neighbors is that as part of our welcome packets, we should include a lake map with directions, shallow spots, deep spots, landmarks. And that is something that we will be looking into. And if someone would like to help me out with something like that to include in our welcome packets in the spring, that would be great.
I've got one. I'll send it to you.
Perfect. Next would be maybe contacting, and I will share this myself, to get voter safety guides added to those welcome packets as well, for people that have guests up, things like that, something from the state of Michigan with our state of Michigan voting rules, because we have had a lot of complaints about people with different voting issues. So that would be something good to include in the welcome packets for the spring as well.
Great idea. Great idea.
Thank you very much. And we're going to be looking at the zone director list, and you and I should chat so how we can coordinate that and get some more word out. One thing that's not on the list here is the lake monitoring with Jim Waltz. Are you here, Jim?
Morning. The good news is the lake water quality is very good. It's in line with our historic norms. The sucky disc measurement was about 12.5 feet. Normally it runs from 12 to 14 feet. You can see the little inset shows the sucky disc. It's a qualitative measurement where you lower the disc into the water and measure the depth at which you can still observe the pattern on the disc. Next step on the water quality monitoring is a summer phosphorus measurement. That's more of a quantitative measurement where you take a sample out of the deepest part of the lake and measure the phosphorus content. We're working with and we continue to work with the Michigan Clean Water Corps, which is a voluntary organization run out of Michigan State, and they have a cooperative lakes monitoring program that we participate in. To put it on our radar, there's been concerns about algae growth, increased algae growth in the lake. We need to be very cognizant of nitrogen and phosphorus levels. That's common ingredients in fertilizer that's used by farmers and also by landscapers. If you can, go for the zero phosphorus composition of the fertilizer and help us with the algae. Anyone noticing an algae bloom, and this time of year is good for algae blooms because the lake doesn't turn over and there's not a lot of oxygen, please report it so we can monitor the sources of phosphorus in the lake. Most of the algae is actuated by phosphorus. In general, we're in good shape. The readings, the qualitative readings are in line with the historic norms from 2019.
Great. Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate the report. And then Township Liaison, there is no report. I believe Roger has stepped down from that role.
Yes.
This is Jim LaBerge. I'd like to just have a comment here.
Sure.
Oh, hang on.
Well, then we just muted you.
You're muted again.
There we go.
There we go.
Well, I just wanted to give you a little background about Roger. You know, he had been doing a pretty good job for a couple of years, and he kept us informed of what was going on with the township and around hail and things like that, which was really good. And then last year at the just before the last meeting, he came to me with this proposal of getting rid of RLS. And I was kind of shocked, actually. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, you know, we're spending way too much money and PLM can do the same job for way less money. And I work with them on other lakes around here, so I'm real confident in their ability. And I said, you know, Roger, I don't think that's right. We look to RLS for way more than just doing the weeds. I mean, they help keep our lake healthy and they give us lots of other value for what we spend. Well, he wasn't too happy with that. I immediately went to the board and explained to them what he had said. So we sort of became aware that Roger really wasn't, you know, in favor of RLS. If you'll notice, since that time, Roger has not made one report to the Property Owners Association. So all summer long, did anybody know
what the cones were for on the streets in Hale, what the results of the gypsy moth spray program was. You know, all of those things that were of interest to people in the association, we got nothing. So if Roger hasn't voluntarily quit, I strongly suggest you find somebody else to do that job.
I'll address that. I invited Roger to today's meeting several days ago. And we received a reply back that he could not and would not be continuing in his role. He had other obligations going on and did not want to continue in his role as the liaison with the township.
Had to go to the same meeting Fred did.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah.
And Laura Lesage, you want to come over here so people can hear you? Road Cleanup Committee report.
Hi, I'm Laura Lesage, and we're doing the road committee, the cleanup this week. And if you get out and clean up, and let me know if you want to sign up. I know I have a lot of you already signed up. And then at the Saturday, the 11th, we're going to have pizza at the bar at noon. So if you want to help on that Saturday, meet me at the bar at 10:30, not for a drink, but to get some grabbers or bags or whatever. And we'll continue our cleanup and celebrate the year end. So should be a fun time. So just give me your name over here. Thank you.
I heard there would be cocktails before we started.
Bring them along.
Bloody Marys.
All right. Thank you, Laura. I will be there. All right. I think that covers most of the business.
Yep.
Any member comments? We wrap up? Other than lake treatment, I think we beat that one.
I'm a little confused about this relationship with Fred Lewis, and it does not make sense why he is so against this association taking care of the lake, especially since it has obviously worked. So I'm wondering, you know, what's the motive behind it? Does anyone understand why he is so opposed to us managing our lake, especially if it's done well?
I would just say this. I would write an email to him and ask him directly.
Okay,
Ask him to call you because
the secondary part to this is
We're
heard anyone that
being
maybe
asked
he
to
has
speak
an issue with like who's managing it, and I don't know, do we have a freedom of information request that could go in to find out who he's making? Like,
I think we lost the audio. Hello?
Hello, I'm here.
I think we lost the audio.
Well, I guess we can just sit here and talk, Jim.
You know, I'm just thinking, what the hell does Fred care how much we spend on our lake?
Amazing, isn't it?
That's the $35,000 or $40,000 question.
Well, that's why I was a previous homeowners president for my subdivision downstate, and we had legal services on tenor, available to us so that these type of issues, we're not spending $10, $20, we're spending thousands and thousands of taxpayer dollars through these assessments and et cetera. And this man or this office or whatever that is not providing us a service that we're paying for. And they're also taking a dictatorial type of stance with it. Why don't we have somebody of a legal venue going in there, writing letterhead and getting us the actions that we need? We as the people are not going to get as much attention from the township until you bring in legal services.
She's the secretary. Your name?
Tom Kuhn.
Tom Kuhn. How do you spell it?
K-U-H-N.
Okay, I think you make good points. And
I mean, really, if we were spending township money, I could see where he'd get all upset. But it's not his money. It's not the township's money. It's our money.
Well, that's why I told him right from the beginning, we're paying for it, not the township. We are. What do you care, Fred? We're the homeowners. You're not. You have no dog in this hunt.
Well, that leaves my
Supposed to
flag,
not have a
flags
dog.
go up. Now, I'm thinking there's something fishy going on.
Right.
That-
I
And
agree.
I think that the only way we're gonna get to the bottom of that is hire ourselves a lawyer and let's get in there and start picking. Do it do a FOIA request, whatever we need to do. And it becomes part of the
Mike's good
association.
at, Mike's good at FOIAs. He has experience.
I can, why don't you give me your contact info? I'd love to talk to you about, your experiences, because I think we need, we're,
Independent audit too.
And well, and I'll be honest, I mean,
These funds.
if somebody were to do a FOIA, I think it would be better if it wasn't somebody from the board.
No,
I think it would be better if it came from just Tom.
we can talk about that. Jim, I can say that the township's been transparent on the expenditures from this fund.
They have.
Right.
There's been no problem with getting information. I got a list of, Fred provided me a list of all the assessment district members. So the township's been pretty open in terms of how much money has been spent.
And,
And that's been me requesting, I need the check register. I got it like.
yeah,
So
and we got the check register going back many years.
It's because it's from Rome and Rome was on top of her game.
Right, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's, I don't have any problem with that, but I think we don't want to go in there as a bunch of amateurs and.
no, we did something, I mean, numbers will get you action. We had a situation in our subdivision where our roads became in such disrepair that it became a safety issue, and the township supervisor with me said, no, I don't want to talk to our meeting. We showed up with 80 people in the meeting, and by the end of the meeting, I had a meeting with the road crew that was coming out to replace and fix all the streets at no cost to the ownership. So people, if you go in volumes and numbers, will get things taken care of.
Yeah, and I think based upon the survey results, which I will send out in an email, you'll see that there is a resounding support for continuing to have a healthy lake that balances everybody's, the fishing as well as the all sports.
And we
Just want a
don't
good
mind,
lake.
we don't mind paying the $10,000 or whatever, if it's $15,000 to Jennifer and her company.
Yeah.
It's well worth it.
Maureen.
Yeah.
The article I gave you was written by Clifford Bloom. He is the expert lawyer with the Riparian Group here in Michigan and Lakes and Streams, and he's the guru, basically.
I will copy this and send this out as well. This will be posted on the website. So we're gonna get the word out and try to coordinate this. I like Mike's idea of having a kind of a spokesperson, but everyone else needs to be there too to back that person.
To Tom's point, we need to show up in numbers.
Yeah.
But I've known Fred since high school. It's a power grab for him. He wants power.
That's the thing I think that
Yeah,
he's doing.
that's all
It's
there
just
is.
power.
Power and he's lazy.
Yes.
All right, any other comments? I think we got it. I think we have.
Yeah,
Speaking
this-
about lake treatment and management. Always open to opposing opinions. Well done, Mike. So anything else? If
I have
not-
a question.
Okay.
Talk about the township liaison, Roger has resigned.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get another person to represent?
We'll look at that. You know, my opinion. Yeah, really, it could be a resident, it can be somebody that's.
It doesn't have to be somebody on the township board, it just has to be somebody that's willing to bring back information from those meetings.
Yeah, we'll look at that. Maybe that can be part of our report, maybe under my report. Jim.
We talked about things that we're gonna do between now and the next meeting, either with Fred or at the board meeting. What are those steps, and is there a timetable? Are we gonna send out another survey on the computers to the residents? Are we gonna get the zone people involved, or what's our next step?
So I think, and I'll write this down for myself. So I think we need to email the resolution with the link survey again. The survey to the link to the survey to get as many people as we can to complete that. There's gonna be, and then we'll also include information on when the board meeting is up here and encourage people to attend.
Okay, and what about the Fred Lewis meeting?
I think that's gonna be dependent on how quickly we're able to get something set up. I mean, since we can do a Zoom call, that feels pretty easy. It's just a matter of when Fred would make himself available.
He'll probably say after the meeting.
We have 11 days till the board meeting, so we gotta move fast.
Yes.
So what I'd say is if you have neighbors and you're talking, they haven't attended the meeting or not aware of what's going on, please share that information.
Could I ask that the information that we were given today, I've been on the lake since '04 and I'm not aware of the problems we're having with Fred, et cetera. Is there a way you all can put a summary of a non-accusatory summary together so that we all can educate ourselves?
The history
have
of
these
the-
conversations and we can become aware of what's going on. I don't have, because I mean, I'll go door to door on my street and start talking to people. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't believe we know what's going on.
Well, you heard the majority of the issues, like, on our lake, we tried to fix the lake ourselves with the eagles and it just.
Yeah, that was.
It was, the
It was
history.
overwhelming.
So we took it upon ourselves and Chuck led that, spearheaded that of finding Jennifer. She worked for a company. So Jennifer came out representing her past company who she used to work for, presented it, took a tour of the lake, and, like long story short, we ended up hiring, she left that company, they were 7 years, not so good, she left, started her own company, hired her, and everything's been working great, but Fred has fought this process right from the beginning. And he started out by saying, look I'll facilitate the special tax, because that's my job, but I do not want to deal with your lake issues. I don't want 500 people, 500 homeowners calling me with issues. I just want the president of the association calling me, one person, the president, whoever that is, with any issues. I don't have time to deal with lakes. You know how many lakes I have? He went on this big song and dance. I didn't want to be bothered.
I think we should keep it less personal and more factual.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
I don't get bogged
I
down.
get very defensive.
And I think person, not the Zoom, I mean, Zoom could be awful with somebody that Fred was today.
I'll shut up. I won't say nothing.
No, but I think putting together a chronology of what's happened. And really, bottom line, we need to look forward to what we want to do. I think the resolution addresses, here's where we want to go. Let us go there. Let us control our own destiny. These are our properties. My property values affected negatively by the milfoil or positively by high quality lake. So,
I have a couple things. Do we know of other lakes Jennifer handles?
Yes, I
And-
do my nephew's lake, Magician Lake.
Oh, there's dozens.
She manages,
Well,
she
I
manages
think
Houghton Lake.
I think it
If
would
she's
be.
managing Houghton Lake, you know the caliber of the individual that you're dealing with. And she actually mentioned to us that there's an issue on Silver Lake out by Muskegon, where they're actually having to go in and replant native vegetation in the lake because the lake was so oversprayed that they basically destroyed the ecosystem of the lake, and they're now having to go back in and plant. And I think that's, for me, that's the biggest thing that I want to see us avoid, is to have somebody that is incentivized to sell more chemicals, to come in and destroy the proper balance of the lake. And then that brings on a whole host of other issues that you then have to manage. And quite honestly, I mean, I think anybody that's been on this lake for any amount of time, kind of over it with the weeds, the milfoil situation, like everything's running really, really smooth. Don't mess with it.
So I just think it'd be powerful to have some testimonies from other owners of other lakes to recommend this company, because we're just one lake and it looks like, we have it in with Jennifer. But if we have some, not, it doesn't have to be a whole lot of people, but people to say, yeah, this company has really saved our lake, et cetera. The other thing is when you do the survey, and we talked about a petition, can you have like an online signed petition for them?
I mean, I don't know if
You
that'll.
should have asked me this earlier, before we got.
Well, I mean,
A lot of good ideas.
well,
I want to have fun this weekend, but, no.
Hold on my ears.
Anyway, I think we're gonna look at how we can get as many voices, even if it's your name saying, I agree with this. We can do that.
your name and your property address.
Yeah,
on
and
the
we've
link.
got that on the survey. A lot of people, I said optional, provide your address, so I know that I've got one person from this parcel. I don't want a husband and wife doubling up the survey. I want to get one parcel owner. Well, I don't know where you live, but anyway, all good conversation. Jim, I think your point was how quickly we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this as soon as
Starting
possible.
Tuesday.
Like this week, we have to, because a week from Wednesday is the meeting.
Yes.
And
Who does Loon Lake? Anyone
they
else?
use PLM directly, but remember, they're a private lake. So they don't have all this
Is that public
invasive
access?
species popping into the lake at the public launch, and it's a different situation, and not nearly as busy.
That's public access.
Our lake.
No, I go by it every day.
Oh, they are, okay.
Oh, well then, I'm corrected, thank you.
I am corrected.
Yeah, there's public access right there.
Okay.
Okay. Must be good.
It's like, as you're going down the big hill.
Yeah.
Do we have any contact with, does anyone know?
I don't-
There's might be somebody.
We'll see if we can reach out to their association and talk to them too.
You know what?
They run our lake, we run ours. Yes, Jim?
But power.
I actually have a good friend who lives on Loon Lake. He lives there year round.
Okay.
And he says, I don't know if he knows what he's talking about or not. He says the lake's a mess. He said Loon Lake's a mess. And I think, the local guy, I think, has been doing their lake.
PLM.
No, not PLM.
Guy Saver.
Oh, I thought it was.
Yes, Saban.
Kevin? All
And
right,
he tells me, I don't know if he knows what he's talking about. He says their lake is a mess.
Okay.
What you'll
So, I
find
don't
in talking to these lake representatives is that they change applicators, constantly because they don't get consistent service. That one year they'll be fine and the next year the weeds crop up and they can't control it. So they go to a new applicator. And the advantage with having Jennifer is she handles that coordination for us. So that's out of the picture. So I get calls probably, I used to get calls at least twice a month from lakes in dire straits, and they knew of Jennifer asking for recommendations, and I recommend her highly. I don't know how many lakes she now, controls, but it's in the dozens.
No, she's at 150 now.
150, and they're expanding to other states.
Well, they might want to join then. If their lake is a mess, they may want to join.
I think we need to solve our problem first.
Yeah.
What would be the tip of the spear on this?
It would be power coming in together.
Yep. All right, I think we're about done. I would entertain a motion. to
Wait,
adjourn.
we got. No, we have 50-50.
All right.
Oh, it's all about
50-50.
the money.
It's all about the money. All right.
Thank you, everyone, for contributing to the 50-50. We added $60, so the half is 30.
Thank you.
Oops. All right. I didn't get a ticket, so,
I didn't either.
all right.
You want me to draw? Toil and trouble. Here we go. What is the number? Let's see here. Ending in 399. 3388
You're
All right.
buying,
All
you're
right,
buying
so
some
now I
stuff.
would entertain the motion.
I make a motion.
Motion by LaBerge, second by,
Marty Schultz.
all right, to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Second, I believe.